welcome to a pod full of Saints. We're doing it today on Tuesday, the 6th of September 2022. Well, obviously, we're doing it today. We can't be doing it tomorrow. There's three of us here, myself, David Tavener, getting confused over dates already. Shaking his head, Jake Ellacott.
Hello, Dave. Hello, Lee. Hello, everyone.
And somewhere over there, not shown on my screen yet, is Lee Wood.
David, how are you, mate? Confused, obviously, but apart from that, how are you?
Situation normal. Good to see you wearing our original shirt, Lee, the replica one, of course, not an original one. That would be worth a few quid. Right, we've got some games to look at, one that's gone and some that are coming up. We go back to the one that's just gone. Last Saturday at Clarence Park, St Albans City 0, lived up to their name. St Albans City 0, Worthing 1. 4 home games, we haven't scored a goal. I thought actually we started quite brightly and we had a couple of spells, but overall I think the right team won on the 90 minutes.
Well, yeah, I think so. You're right. The first 25 minutes, I thought we played all right. We had some shots on goal. We looked okay. And then after that, Worthing stepped into the game and we just couldn't step up, could we? We couldn't match them. And especially second half, really, really struggled to get any footing in the game at all. And as you say, Worthing probably deserved to win it. And what you have to say, with what a goal as well, fair play. What a way to win it. But yeah, another just disappointing afternoon at the park, wasn't it?
We're used to them.
Well, I just don't think that we matched their intelligence, Jake, if
No.
I'm honest, because we got a little bit of purchase with a more direct play early doors, didn't we? Because their centre halves couldn't quite figure us out yet, and I thought they sort of expected us to play football on the pitch, God forbid. But we went more direct route, and they couldn't quite handle it. But once they figured it out, we were just, we didn't have any ideas to counterbalance it, did we? Really?
I thought, well, everybody saw it's not what I thought. You could see they just wanted to pass the ball around after that first 20 minutes and didn't want to give us any of it at all. It was monotonous. They kept going backwards across the line and whatnot, but it made it difficult to get it all. But what let them down was their final ball to the front men. Overhit too many times, which kept us in the game, but they got that right in the second half. And as the spell towards the end of the first half, it puts us under pressure. They're going to cause problems for a lot of teams playing that way because they give the ball away so infrequently. But as you said, Lee, we didn't have, if you like, the wit or whatever to break it down. And it wasn't until late in the game where we really, I felt, put pressure on them on the ball because they were playing deep, holding it, and we let them do it so they could do what they want. They got a little bit rattled, I thought, when we did start putting pressure on them a bit.
They did, but don't forget, we were probably masters of our own downfall because our first touch in the first half was absolutely abysmal. And it wasn't that much better in the second. When you've got a really bad first touch, straight away you're having to, you're negating yourself time, aren't you, on the ball? I've got to say, there's some players here that need to be looked at under scrutiny, under the microscope. Chris Paul, his outlay for the team needs to be massively improved if he's going to be a mainstay. Joe Neal, he's got the heart of a lion, but at the minute he's got the finishing prowess of a goat. And unfortunately, he's costing us games now. He had a couple of really gilt-edged chances in the first half in particular. He's costing us games, extremely wasteful. Players like Paul and Joe Neal, they're in the side out of default, really, because Ian's got no other option. The squad is that thin. At what point do we say to him, look, we've either got to play him in another way, try and give him some sort of confidence? Because at the minute, if he has those 2 goals, those 2 chances to score, 2 goals, the game's ours. We've got the players, to sort of play the way we want to, but it's just not happening. And it's not great to see him go because he's almost become like a cult figure because he's not scored. We want him to score and make a more positive impact on the side rather than just be this sort of joke on the terraces at the minute.
You mentioned there, Lee, we may want to look at playing a slightly different way. One of the blokes I stand next to, John Holdroyd, showed a lot more insight than normally get with people around me. And he said, he saw it last week as well. When Hugh Dawson came on, Ches Isaac seemed to be pushed forward a bit more. And that made us stronger going forward, or stronger in midfield, whatever, having Hugh there maybe. But it also showed maybe how much we are missing Mitchell Weiss just behind Shaun Jeffers.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be without him for another month by the looks of it. He's got a cracked bone in one of his leg bones, whatever it is. And he'll be out for at least another month, you'd have thought.
I have to say, it was a bit of a shock when I read that in, I think, Hartsad or in Ian's interview, say Mitch's got a broken bone. And I think the annoying thing, and I spoke to a supporter last night about this, we can see the issues on the terraces, can't we? We can see what the issue is, what's going on, the lack of goals. I think the management team can definitely see it. What are we going to do about it? If Mitch is out for another month, what do we do? Because I really do scoring.
Jake, you were there on the terraces when we had a supporter there, and he comes in frequently, but, he said in the second half, how can the players not see this? The way we were playing, they don't want to play that way, surely. They can't go out and apply themselves thinking this is going to win us a football match. It's absolutely not. I mean, to be fair, and I don't know whether Ian's purposely left the squad, or he's not added to the squad. The thing is, we know that the money's there, but is the incentive there to add to the squad? I mean, surely, I know he doesn't want to sort of disrupt the team environment, and we've got this selection process that stems from the director of football down. That it seems to be easier to get into the SAS at the minute rather than it does to get into the football club. I mean, we've got to have players, we've got to have bodies, because the ones we've got just aren't performing.
We haven't got clarity over who is responsible for bringing players into the club. Last fans forum we had didn't really clarify it. So it'd just be nice to know from a supporter's point of view, is it like it is in the pro game where, is it a manager identifies someone and the director of football goes and gets him, or the director of football says, this is who you need and you'll be working with him? Whichever way, some clarity would be rather nice.
But didn't we hear that if Ian suggests a player to Dean Austin or whoever it is, he wants to see him play like 2 or 3 times before he comes to a conclusion? Well, that's fine, because if you're spending money, good money, you want to be sure. But 3 games in, you could be 9 points behind. Another 3 games, that's another 9 points, and it's just time that we haven't got at the minute. Even though the season in its infancy, the thing is, the only saving grace is that we're not a million miles away. We're still, amazingly, despite how bad we are playing, this sounds freakishly familiar to last year. But it should be better than this, shouldn't it? We should have learnt our lessons, and we're just not doing it.
Yeah, we've extended the club record of not scoring in league games at the start of the season at home. We've now extended it to 4. We haven't scored in 7 of the last 9 league games at home. And yet still we had our first 1,000 crowd of the season. A lot of kids there, so maybe it wasn't 1,000 players, but still it's good to see them down there. It's good for the future. Come on, Jake, what's the solution? Where are we going to get the goals from?
Well, on that crowd, I think the concern for me was second half, how many of those kids were sat on the terrace not watching the game because they were bored and on their phones? That was worrying behind the goal, really noticeable. But we talked about in the summer, didn't we, that up front in those forward areas, we did look light. And if the squad had an injury crisis, or if Shaun didn't get off to the best of starts, we'd struggle. And look what's happened. It's exactly as we feared. And luckily, it's the defence keeping us in games at the minute by playing very well. And I think we have to praise the defence at the minute. Don't think they're doing much wrong at all. Defence and goalkeeper, 2 full-backs, probably our best players. But I think the only way to solve it is you've got to bring in another forward into the squad and possibly a creative midfielder. And those are big asks, but other clubs are making signings at the minute. And Ian's got to make it, because you can't keep playing as we are, struggling to score.
You look at midfield, and Manosh Sandhya, we got him back at the club, and we thought that's a good signing. Of course, he's been injured all season. I think 2 or 3 times now they thought he's fit and ready to put him in, and suddenly, boom, he's gone backwards again. So let's hope next time he's in there and Ian be closer to having the midfield that he wants. Say Mitchell Weiss, another month out. And we know the situation with Romeo Akinola. Is he close?
No, I think last we heard was a few weeks ago, wasn't it? Just long term. I think Ian said in a post-match interview that he'd started training a little bit again in recent weeks, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near match fit, is he? He hasn't had pre-season, so that's arguably, three of our most creative players from last season behind Shaun. Well, obviously Menash not last season, but he is a creative player. Just out the squad, injured, and of course we're going to struggle.
Shaun Jeffers, he's not playing like he did last season. We know that. Frustration because he's not getting the service.
Possibly, but I don't think the players around him are performing.
No,
it's when the team plays well, Jeffers plays well, and vice versa. And there were sort of periods of that last year, and he can. I think the aspect of him pulling a goal out of nothing has been nullified because the players got wise to him now. They're either doubling up on him or they're showing him outside rather than sort of cutting side and then letting sort of rip. People just got wise to the fact that how we're going to play now, because the fact if you're only playing one up front, you know where all the threat is going to come from. You put two on him, and once the opposition see that the rest of the midfield and the attacking runners aren't really up to much because they don't take a bloody shot, then they can let him have the ball as much as he likes when he's back to goal.
Because things aren't quite going his way at the moment, are they? He had that ludicrously disallowed goal against Taunton Town. And then he missed that penalty on Saturday. Harrison Mayle saved it in a Worthing goal. It wasn't a great penalty.
No.
So it's easy to knock him. But he had scored 11 out of 11, which is a new club record for a player in his first 11 penalties for the club. So you can't knock him too much, can you?
No one's knocking him, Taz. I think it's the fact of the matter, mate, is that we're knocking the support cast.
Yeah.
And I know that Gary Neville spoke about this not in context of City, but a fish rots from the head down. And the thing is, you've got to look at the people in charge about how really their desire for St Albans City. It's all well and good. Don't get me wrong, I love what's going on around the club and on the match day. But if you just want a match day experience, bugger off to Dulwich. We want a proactive, positive, really attacking football club to watch on a Saturday afternoon. At the minute, we haven't got that. So it'd be really interesting to ask Shaun how he feels, because he needs people around him as well to sort of chip in and take away some of that burden.
The attack-minded point is a good one there, Lee, because you probably noticed it as well. In games, it takes us so long to get up to anywhere near top speed. We have to go goal down quite often before we start really putting pressure on the opposition. And what is the last 19 games we've conceded the first goal? We've lost a whole lot. We've got to get out there and get on the front foot.
We have. Well, interestingly, I'd argue Worthing's probably the first game this season where we have actually. Not Worthing. Is it Worthing we played? It was. Yeah. Sorry. Am I blank? Worthing, that first 20 minutes, I thought we did. But there's no point because we can't put the ball in the net. So what are we going to achieve? And as you say, after they score that great goal, we do push on late on, but it's too late by then. So I think you're totally right, Dave. We are not attacking enough at home at all. I remember Ian Allinson's sides that have been really fun and entertaining to watch in previous seasons. And it's just not there at the minute, is it? And
I don't think it's a case of we're not attacking. It's just we've been quite wasteful when we have got the chances. Because the thing is, if Joe Neal bangs in those two, Zane had a chance in the first half. Jeffers could have turned and shot. No one shoots. We could have been 3-0 up after 25 minutes, and then the game's done. And we could do whatever we want. We're just being wasteful. I absolutely agree with your point that we haven't got the attacking players, 100%. But I think the players we have got, when they do get into the chances, they're just being so wasteful, and it's costing us games of football, boys.
Cool. So we look at Worthing, and they were missing the injured Jake Robinson's going to be up pretty much the whole season, isn't he? So they're doing rather well. Was it third in the table, unbeaten, and they got him not even in the side. A nice position to be in.
I mean, we have to say they are a good team. A lot of teams will lose to them this season, but it's not necessarily the Worthing result in one, is it? It's the whole picture of the home games this season that we're really focused on here, and it doesn't look any different, does it, at the minute? So it's a real struggle.
Credit to the Worthing supporters as well. They turned up in numbers like we thought they would. They made a lot of noise. But what about our match sponsors? Nick Mandelos and friends, they made probably more noise in the stand, but now a lot behind the goal. They were terrific, weren't they?
They enjoyed themselves. think that's fair
liquid
to
lunch.
say.
I think they were. It's a liquid lunch. I think that's what they had with.
Enjoyed plenty of that mad squirrel.
I mean, Nick himself took a penalty at half time, or 3 penalties, didn't he? In his toga outfit, and he scored the 3rd one.
Sign him up then, mate. Get him on a contract.
A nice thing, you might notice it, not notice it going to go, might be different there, but by the side of the pitch, Andy Hippisley had got the volume of tannoys turned down a bit, so you were able to hear what is supposedly called music, but you could actually have a conversation with those around you, which is one of the things you go to football for. It's a social bit as well as football. So that was nice. That's something positive, isn't it?
Lee, is that Dave being happy about something? I'm confused.
No, I'm not, because you should have heard a conversation I had to hear. I'd rather have heard that racket in the end.
I was going to say, I'm more confused about the people pay money to get into City to listen to Tabs. I mean, that's just amazing.
Oh, dear.
Lucky Devils. Right, that's that one. Done and dusted. We've got a couple of games to review. Haven't do we? Hampton and Richmond Borough on Saturday. They're having a bit of a rough run at the moment. Given our away form, 3 away games, 2 wins and a draw. You just feel the pressure's off us more away from home, and I quite fancy us to keep the run going.
Well, first of all, Dave, you sound like a Dalek at the minute.
I was going to say, speaking of rough, you know what I mean?
You sound a little worse for wear.
So it's sat on a blender.
But, oh, God, look at him. But I think these 2 games, I mean, you look at Hampton and Concord's records, they've got shocking records, last runs, not dissimilar to us. But I think Hampton 4 defeats on the bounce, 3 on the bounce, Concord 4. These are 2 games now we've got to go in for, looking for 4 points minimum, I think.
Yeah, do wonders for us. Well, we're down in 14th. I think we could go down to 15th if Chippenham win tonight. But 4 points then, it'll keep us nicely situated, but as long as we don't have another home game. What about you, Lee? Are you optimistic for these 2 games? I think Jake and I are.
Optimistic? No. No, because I mean, to be fair, I don't know. It's so polarizing this side at the minute, isn't it? You don't know whether they're good. I mean, they're good in spells, but not when they should be. And I'm always optimistic because I want to see them do well, and they're my team. And you know what? We're going to have to revise the frequency of these podcasts, because I don't want to come on it every single week and hammer the boys for being crap. I want, seriously, because it's getting me down having to sort of do it. The players need to start applying themselves and become the team that we know they can be. But we've got to start scoring some goals, because it takes the pressure off, and then that gives us the dictation of the game. Then, we're always chasing games, and all right, we had 3 chances this year where the opposition have scored worldies against us, absolute worldies, and you can't really prevent that. But the fact of the matter is, going into these 2 games, normally you'd say, right, 6 points, it's on 6 points, and even as Jake said, the worst case scenario, maybe 4. But the way we're playing, I can't see us breaking teams down. That is my problem. I can't see us breaking teams down in order to win games, especially when the strikers have been so wasteful.
I think Ian still thinks that teams are still giving us a lot more respect than before start last season, simply because of what we achieved early last season and in the FA Cup. And they're just trying to nullify us. But I think that underplays just how weak this current City side is. And it's not a good side. There's no 2 ways about it. It's got some players who are very good with some more decent ones in there. But it is lacking at the moment, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to, as Lee mentioned earlier on, the fact that the forward areas, these teams can respect us by just putting 2 men on Shaun Jeffers. That's all they have to do. Shaun, let's be honest, Shaun was the main danger man last season. And, teams have, know how to work against him. And it's working well for them. But also, we have to step up. If we want to be a team that wants to finish in the top 7 or top 10, whatever we want to do, don't know what, but we've got to step up. There's two teams on the pitch. It's not just attack against defence. You've got to change things tactically, do something. I have a bit of faith in the Hampton game, but going to Concord at Clarence Park following Tuesday, our record at Clarence Park at the minute, I just don't know how we're going to play. So I have more faith about the away game on Saturday, but we've got to step up and change things. We can't rely on other teams to just let us attack and do our bit in the forward areas.
Yeah, right. Next week, we've got to hope it's not just the law of averages that works in their favour, which says we're going to win eventually. Of course you will. Be nice if we could do it with a positive, convincing performance.
Well, Tabs, look, the thing is, though, mate, right? If you've got players that aren't performing, you get better players, or you try to source better players. If you haven't got a microphone that's working, you get a new microphone. It's not. It's just simple logic, surely. And I don't know what the delay is. I mean, we've got supposedly excessive scouting network. We've got a director of football. We've got a very high-profile, well-connected assistant manager. Ian himself knows the game locally as well. Why is it taking so long? Why is it taking to address the issues? The issue is personnel. The issue is surely personnel. And if we address that, then the results can sort of come in turn. But ultimately, it goes back to the Tunbridge game. I think that papered over a lot of cracks in terms of our performance. Yes, the result was great, and the lads were to a man dead on their feet because they put in a damn good shift. But you know what? As well as endeavour and athleticism, you need quality and class, and at the minute we're lacking in that.
We got away with the Tunbridge one. They had chances to turn that round, didn't they?
Yeah.
I tell you might not have been able to see behind that great big flag, but you two were waving.
But no, I think we at least we fought then. But again, on Saturday, I didn't feel like it. But Hampton, we know it's a tricky place to go, and the lads are going to have to fight. The pitch isn't always the best. There, it might not be the prettiest games, but we've got to be going there because if we lose against Hampton on Saturday and we have stopped their losing run, there's just going to be more question marks. And as Lee said, luckily we're not far off, the top half, but we're also not far off being dragged into the bottom 5, 6, are we at the minute? It's very tight, the whole league,
4 points playoffs, 4 points relegation zone. So take your pick at the moment, isn't it?
Exactly.
If we don't get 4 points, minimum 4 points from these two games, doesn't it put a lot of pressure on our FA Cup tie? 17th September, we're at home to AFC Sudbury. Now, they're in Ishmael League Division, whatever it is, North. Joint top, I think 4 teams got 10 points from 4 games. Manager, what's his name? Rick somebody or other, I can't read my own writing, Rick Andrews. Just got the manager of the month. They are flying. It does, all the pressure is on us on that one, particularly if we go into it with a continued poor run of form.
Absolutely. I think, out of all the draws we could have got, I think most people would have been happy with AFC Sudbury, but they've had a decent start to the season. My biggest concern is it's at home. I'm worried about that. But it's a decent draw. But as you said, I think there's already pressure on it because of last season's FA Cup run. I think there's pressure from the club to try and repeat something of that to that extent. I don't think you'll get anywhere near the first round, but I think there's pressure on Ian to get through this round. It's a winnable tie. But as you say, if you don't pick up great results against Hampton and Concord, you're going to be putting even more pressure on it. So I think it's
the pressure should be on him now, Jake.
Yeah, of course.
The pressure should be on now, buddy, because the thing is, the start, he sets his own goal. So the thing is, look at the players we didn't get. Look at the players we've got now, and look at the way we're playing the football, and look at what's being dished out week after week. Ian's not happy. He almost sort of like said that himself in his post match. He can't fault the players for effort. I mean, no one is here. We just need some better players to take us on to the next echelon of really where we need to be in sort of challenging at least solidly for playoffs.
I suppose a question as well going into these games is how, if the injury situation is as it is, how do we actually change the team? What do we do? I think the only one particularly is maybe Liam Sol coming into the squad, not coming into the starting 11, maybe. But apart from that, I don't know. I don't know how we change the team at the minute with the injury situation, unless we bring some players in this week from elsewhere.
What do you start with, Hugh Dawson, and push Cesare forward?
I think you should. I don't know what Hugh's really done wrong. I mean, what I've seen him in this season, I think he's looked good.
I think that the thing with Hugh, he came on Saturday, and I thought he was excellent. To be fair, he put his foot in, a couple of nice tackles, won the penalty. For me, I thought he got outrun towards the middle of last season, and I think we just needed a bit more solidity in the middle of the park there. But I think he's got that now. Everything that Hugh did on Saturday was good. And I think with the right amount of training, and he's going to develop into a really excellent player for us. But don't forget, he's still young. You know, don't forget that Lancashire had a really dodgy spell towards the middle of last season as well. Got to look after these players because they're young and they want to play for us. And there's not many of those floating around, mate. So you know, let's be a little bit positive about it, but also be a little bit cautious as well.
I know you say you think we've got a bit more solidity in the middle of the midfield there, Lee, but I think that's still one area we've got to look at, because we do still need a bit more legs in there, because we can get overrun a bit in there, and also we're still looking for that creativity, as we all know.
Oh, Tabs, by a country mile, mate. You've hit it straight on the head. But there's so many. We could pick holes in this for another 3 or 4 hours. But as Jake said, it's not us that have got the purse strings. It's not us that can make those calls to players. It's not up to us. But I'm just bewildered as to why it's taken so long. And Jake, you're about to back me up on this, mate. But there were, and I'm not talking 1 or 2, there were a dozen or so people around us in earshot. They weren't happy about the quality of football on offer either. And these weren't kids, and these weren't, you know, the boycotters. These are people who were the inner sanctum of the club sort of 2 years ago. You know, these are people that have got the ears of the owners, who are apparently, you know, the allies of convenience when it sort of comes to that. People now are getting the hump, because I tell you what, it takes some absolute passion to watch that dirge week after week.
On a totally different note, Dean Brennan, we know from around these parts, he's currently involved at Barnet. He has taken those GPS trackers off his players, which I'm delighted to see. I've been against all that sort of stuff. It tells you how far a player has run during the game, how many passes he's done, because that is meaningless. Because we saw with Worthing, probably 30 of their passes in every build-up were a waste of time, because it's just across the back and back to the keeper. It's more important how your final ball is to open up a team and everything. And so to see one manager doing that, I used to put it to Ian as well, that point, it's nothing new. And he seemed to agree as well. And I just, if a manager and coaches can't see with their own eyes what is happening on the pitch, then they've got a problem. They shouldn't need a GPS tracker to tell them.
I think that's spot on. I don't think we can argue with that, can we, Lee? Dave's made a very good point.
He was due, to be fair, mate. You know, we're 4 or 5 podcasts in now, buddy. You know, he was due.
Right. Going forward to Saturday, then, a couple of familiar faces. Maybe not for Jake, before your time. Assistant manager at Hampton is Freddie Hyatt, one of our old boys, and one of the coaches is Fabio Valenti. Again, one of our old boys, but very few games, it must be said. So we'll catch up with them. And also, Temi Babalola is in their squad. Remember that name? Michael Johnson saved his penalty when we played Concord Rangers in the FA Cup last year.
Right, okay.
So we're going to win. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yeah. We're going to win every game, goes without saying.
Mm.
And on that note, let's have some predictions. Lee, you would have got it right last week. Had that penalty been stuck away, you were cruelly robbed, of course. So what are we going for Saturday?
I'm going for a 1-1 draw again, I'm afraid.
Right. Can you beat that, Jake?
I'll go 2-1 Saints.
Of course. And on Tuesday, when we get our first goals and home win of the season.
I think we win on Tuesday. I honestly do. And I'm just going to stick my neck out. I'm going to go 2-0 City. Come on, Saints. Yes, absolutely.
Fine, I'll go 3-1 Saints.
You've still got no defence in our faith in our defence, Jay. You've got conceding goals in both games there. Right, I think we're just about done unless anybody else can come up with anything even mildly interesting.
It would be really nice to hear what all the fans think, to be honest with you, because it can't be fun for any of you boys as well and girls. So if you've got an idea about how we can fix it, if you've got a view about how the way things are going, you can get in touch with us. Jake's going to give you all the details now.
Yeah, at a Podful of Saints. Also the email account, which Dave watches like an eagle when he's not trying to fix his microphone, which I hope he'll be spending this evening doing. But yeah, that's how you can contact us. And we thank you always for all the views and interaction we get. We don't know why any of you do it, honestly. But yeah, I think that's that, isn't it, for this week?
Indeed.
Well, if you're going to Hampton Saturday, get there early, and I mean early if it's a nice day, and go for a walk along by the Thames. That is such a beautiful stretch of the Thames. Walk up to the end there where you've got Hampton Court Palace, whatever they call that big building, and then toodle back down to the football and enjoy another 90 minutes.
Just country file. What's going on here? It's like a public service broadcast.